Good evening, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. This is Rich again, back for your third and final video blog of the night for Saturday, October 11, 2014, Saturday night around 8:08 p.m. It's cleared up in Billerica. It's going to be another cold night. Highs around 30 to 5 to 40 in the area. There's going to be a frost advisory, so bring in the plant lamps, please, because the growing season in the Merrimack Valley area of Massachusetts and close to Boston is coming to an end. You don't want to see your plants be frosted, because if it's frosted too much, the plants are killed. Some news to report: BC College football team beat North Carolina State by a score of 30 to 14. And that's about it on the news, except for Johnny Boychuk of the Islanders defenseman got an assist on the first goal for the Islanders tonight against the Hurricanes. Why can't we get players like that, as Bob Lobel, former sports director of WBZ TV4, would always say when a Boston player does good, an ex-Boston sports star does good for another team. Okay, my third subject of the night is about my personality profile. My personality profile is about Gary Bender, who was a sports announcer for many years. He's famous for working for CBS Sports for about 12 years, but he had a long and illustrious career calling sports announcing from baseball, football, and basketball. Gary was born and he was raised in Kansas. He graduated from Wichita State University in 1962 in a degree in journalism. He went to Kansas State to get his Kansas University to get his master's degree, and he graduated in 1964. He started his broadcasting career around that time at Hutchison's Community Colleges in Hutchinson, Kansas, calling the football teams and basketball teams radio games. And then a few years later, Gary called University of Kansas football and basketball games on the radio in the late 60s. Then he went to Wisconsin and he called some Wisconsin athletic sports back in the early 70s. And then he called Packers games on the radio for the NFL team, the Green Bay Packers, in the early 70s. And he called some Milwaukee Brewers games on television in the early 70s, and he was being watched closely with his good play-by-play style by CBS Sports. In 1975, CBS Sports signed Gary Bender to a contract, and for the next 12 years, he was one of CBS's top announcers. He worked NFL games, regional games for about 12 years. Some of his partners he had were the late great Johnny Unitas, Sonny Jurgensen, quarterback of the Redskins, Hank Stram, and a couple of others. He called a few playoff games for the NFL on CBS, including the Hail Mary game between the Vikings and the Cowboys on December 28th, 1975, when Roger Staubach threw 4th and long against Minnesota Vikings at the old Metropolitan Stadium. And he was, called another classic football game, I think the 1978 wild card game for the NFC. A lot of people would think, experts and critics were saying Gary Bender was kind of an average announcer, kind of boorish, but CBS had hopes for him. He was pretty good to call some playoff games for the NFL. Also, Gary worked doing play-by-play for NBA games for about 10 years. He was actually the number one play-by-play announcer for the NBA in 1981. He called the 1981 All-Star Game, and he called the 1981 NBA Finals between the Houston Rockets and the Boston Celtics. Most of those games, except in Boston and Houston, was shown on tape-delayed basis, and his partners, his colormen, were Rick Barry and Bill Russell. In 1982, Gary became the lead play-by-play voice of the NCAA basketball on CBS. They acquired the tournament the NCAA tournament rights, and for about 3 years, Gary was he called the NCAA Final Four and the NCAA title game for CBS, and then he moved to do some college football games for CBS. In 1987, Gary left CBS Sports to go to ABC Sports. For the next 5 years, he worked for ABC Sports doing regional games for the college football and college basketball. He was the number 2 voice of Major League Baseball on ABC. He called the 1988 American League Championship Series between the Oakland A's and the Boston Red Sox, and he was partnered with Joe Morgan and Reggie Jackson, and there was some tension between them. But he was removed from calling baseball games after the 1988 season. And then after Gary's ABC contract expired, he signed with Turner Sports. He called the NFL Sunday Night Package for 3 years, 1992 to 1994, and then he called NBA on TNT for a few years as well. Afterwards, Gary became a local announcer again. He called Rams games and Bears games on the radio for a few years, and later in his career, he was known as the play-by-play voice of the Phoenix Suns on television on Prime Sports Arizona, which eventually morphed into Fox Sports Arizona. He worked 18 years as a play-by-play announcer for Fox Sports Arizona until retiring in 2011, and he's now retired. And people have criticized maybe Gary Bender for being a boring announcer, an average announcer, but he called a lot of major sporting events. He was a lead play-by-play man for the NBA on CBS, so I think CBS maybe loved his work and stuff like that. So I don't think it was boring. I think if you're a lead announcer for a major sport, you must be doing something right. And there's talk that Gary is always in consideration to get the Kirk Gowdy Memorial Award for Broadcasting Excellence for the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame, and the Pete Rozelle Award for the Pro Football Hall of Fame Broadcasting Excellence. He might get it one of these days, and that's about it on him. And I hope you enjoy these video blogs, Facebook friends, and YouTube followers. I've been covering a lot of variety subjects over the past 5 months, and it's continuing to grow strong. I'm getting more and more likes than ever before on here. And I'll be back tomorrow for at least 3 more video blogs. One of the video blogs tomorrow is the top 10 NHL announcers who should get the Forrest Ewell Memorial Award for Broadcasting Excellence for the Hockey Hall of Fame, and 2 others. I won't reveal what they are. That will be my final status of Facebook, if you're my Facebook friend. And YouTube followers, if you want to be Facebook friends with me, request me, and I'll accept it. And don't forget, coming soon, video blogs on Julie Broughton, Crystal Pistol, Heidi Lee Pratt, Janelle Tobin, Tony Ramos, Dee Patel, Donald Beauregard, Bruce Cronin, and Angelo, among others. Good night, Facebook friends and YouTube followers, and don't forget, send me your questions, private message me what questions you want me to answer on a future video blog, which is coming into November. See you later, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. Have a good night. See you tomorrow.